Welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy stories like this, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Now, let me tell you something that still makes my chest ache when I think about it too long. My name is Daniel, and I am the oldest of 4 children. My parents, Robert and Linda, raised us in a small, cramped house on the outskirts of a town that no one had ever heard of. The kind of town where the main street is mostly boarded up and the biggest excitement is when the gas station gets a new flavor of slushy. My father worked construction, and my mother stayed home to raise us because daycare was too expensive. We never had much. Hand-me-down clothes, powdered milk, and the constant, low-grade anxiety of wondering if the car would make it through another winter. I remember being 10 years old and watching my father come home with dirt under his fingernails and a look in his eyes that I would later learn was exhaustion mixed with shame. He would sit in his old recliner, pop open a beer, and stare at the television without really watching it. My mother would hover around him, asking about his day, and he would grunt or shrug. They loved each other, I think, in the way that 2 people who have been ground down by life can still love. But there wasn't a lot of joy in that house. I decided very early that I was going to get out. Not because I didn't love my family, but because I loved them too much to stay and drown with them. I worked hard in school. I mean really hard. While my friends were out riding bikes and playing video games, I was doing extra credit assignments and reading ahead in textbooks. I got a scholarship to a state university, and my parents cried when I told them. My father hugged me, which he almost never did, and said, "You're going to be somebody, Danny. You're going to be somebody." College was a blur of ramen noodles, all-nighters, and a part-time job at a warehouse that left my back aching for days. I majored in accounting because it seemed practical, because numbers didn't lie, because if you added things up correctly, the answer was always the same. I liked that. I liked the certainty of it. Life had never been certain for me, but accounting was. I graduated with honors and got a job at a mid-sized firm in the city. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I rented a tiny studio apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's cat, and I started building a life. I was 22 years old, and for the first time, I could afford to buy groceries without checking my bank account first. It felt like winning. But my family was still back in that small town, and they were struggling more than ever. My father's construction work had dried up after the recession. He was doing odd jobs here and there, but his body was breaking down. His knees were shot, his back was a mess, and he had developed a cough that never seemed to go away. My mother was working as a cashier at a discount store, but her hours kept getting cut. My younger siblings were still at home. My sister, Jessica, was 20 and working at a diner. My brother, Mark, was 18 and had just graduated high school with no plans. And the youngest, Emily, was 15 and still in school. The house was falling apart. The roof leaked, the furnace was on its last legs, and there were months when they had to choose between paying the electric bill and buying food. I knew this because my mother would call me, her voice tight with embarrassment, and ask if I could spare a little something. At first, it was $50 here, $100 there. Then it became more. I remember the first time I paid their entire electric bill. It was January, and my mother had called me crying because the power company had sent a shut-off notice. She said she didn't know what to do, that the house was freezing, that Emily was getting sick from the cold. I logged into the utility company's website and paid the balance. It was $462. It hurt. I had been saving up for a new laptop, but I paid it anyway. After that, it became a regular thing. I paid their electric bill every month. Then I started paying their water bill. Then their car insurance. Then I bought groceries and had them delivered to the house. Then I paid for Emily's school supplies and new clothes because she had outgrown everything she owned. Then I paid for Mark's community college application fee, even though he didn't seem particularly interested in going. Then I paid for Jessica's car repair when her old sedan broke down on the highway. I never kept a running total because I didn't want to know. I told myself that this was what family did. I told myself that I was lucky to have a job, lucky to be able to help. I told myself that one day, when things got better for them, they would do the same for me. That was the deal, wasn't it? Family takes care of family. But here is the thing that I didn't understand then. When you give and give and give, people start to expect it. They stop being grateful and start being entitled. They stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a resource. And the worst part is, they don't even realize they're doing it. It happens slowly, like water wearing down a stone. A little at a time, So small that you don't notice until one day you look in the mirror and you're not sure who you are anymore. I worked 70 hours a week. I took every overtime shift they offered. I stopped going out with friends because I couldn't afford it. I stopped buying new clothes. I stopped taking vacations. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that once Mark got a job, once Jessica started pulling her weight, once my father's disability came through, things would change. But they never did. 3 years. That's how long I paid their bills. 3 years of waking up at 5 in the morning, working until 7 at night, coming home to my empty studio apartment, eating a frozen dinner, and going to sleep. 3 years of watching my bank account hover just above empty, because every time I started to build a cushion, someone needed something else. 3 years of telling myself that it was worth it, that I was being a good son, a good brother. And all that time, they were talking about me behind my back. I found out on a Tuesday. It was a cold, rainy night in November, and I had just gotten home from work. I was exhausted. My boss had been on my case about a project that was behind schedule, and I had spent the entire day staring at spreadsheets until my eyes blurred. I kicked off my shoes, collapsed onto my secondhand couch, and pulled out my phone. There was a text from my sister, Jessica. She had sent me a screenshot. I assumed it was a meme or something funny she had seen online. We didn't text often, but every now and then, she would send me something to make me laugh. I opened the message, and my heart stopped. It was a screenshot of our family group chat. The one I wasn't a part of. The one they had created without me. I stared at the image for a long time, my thumb frozen over the screen. The chat was between my parents, Jessica, Mark, and Emily. And they were talking about me. My father had started it. He wrote, "Danny is getting too big for his britches. Thinks he's better than us now." My mother responded, "I know. He barely calls anymore. And when he does, he sounds so cold. Like we're a burden to him." Jessica chimed in. "He acts like he's so generous, but he never comes to visit. He never asks how we're doing. He just sends money and thinks that's enough." Mark wrote, "He's probably hoarding cash over there, living in his fancy city apartment. I bet he's got more money than he lets on." And then Emily, my baby sister, the one I had bought new clothes for, the one I had paid for her school trip to Washington, D.C., the one I had stayed up late helping with her math homework over video calls, wrote, "He's so dramatic. Always acting like he's sacrificing everything for us. It's not that hard to work an office job. He doesn't know what real work is." I read the messages over and over again. I zoomed in on each one, as if looking closer would somehow change the words. My chest felt tight, and my hands were shaking. I had to set the phone down on the couch because I was afraid I would drop it. For 3 years, I had given them everything. I had given them my time, my energy, my money, my youth. I had given up dates and friendships and hobbies and dreams. I had worked myself to the bone, and I had never, not once, complained. Not when my mother called me at midnight to ask for grocery money. Not when my father guilted me for not coming home for Christmas because I couldn't afford the plane ticket after paying their car insurance. Not when Jessica told me I was lucky to have a desk job while she was waiting tables. And this was what they thought of me. This was how they saw me. A cold, distant, dramatic snob who was hoarding cash and looking down on them. I picked up my phone again and stared at the screenshot. There was a small part of me that wanted to respond, that wanted to type out a long, furious message detailing every single dollar I had given them, every sacrifice I had made, every night I had gone to bed hungry so they could eat. I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to make them feel as small and hurt as I felt in that moment. But I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath. Then another. Then I did something that surprised even me. I blocked their numbers. All of them. My father, my mother, Jessica, Mark, Emily. I went into my contacts and one by one, I hit the block button. Then I deleted the screenshot. Then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, turned off the lights, and lay down on my couch in the dark. I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain tap against the window. I thought about all the times I had told myself that they loved me, that they appreciated me, that one day they would see everything I had done and be grateful. I thought about how stupid I had been. The next morning, I woke up feeling strangely calm. The rage and hurt were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but they had been pushed down by something else. Something colder. Something that felt a lot like finality. I went to work like nothing had happened. I sat through meetings, answered emails, and finished the project that my boss had been nagging me about. I did my job because I had always done my job, because work was the one thing in my life that made sense. When I came home that night, I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. They hadn't even noticed I had blocked them. Or if they had, they didn't care enough to reach out through another number. Days turned into weeks. The first week was hard. I kept reaching for my phone to call my mother, out of habit. I would catch myself typing out a message to Jessica, asking how her day was. But I would stop myself and put the phone down. I told myself that I was doing the right thing. I told myself that I deserved better. The second week, I started to feel lighter. I had more money in my bank account because I wasn't paying their bills anymore. I bought myself a new pair of shoes, the first new shoes I had bought in 2 years. They weren't expensive, just a simple pair of sneakers, but they were mine. I wore them to work and felt a small, secret thrill every time I looked down at my feet. The third week, I went out for drinks with a coworker named Sarah. She was a kind woman with a sharp sense of humor and a laugh that filled up the room. We had worked together for 2 years, but I had never spent time with her outside of the office because I was always too busy or too broke. That night, we sat in a noisy bar and talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her divorce, and I told her about my family. Not everything, but enough. She listened without judging, and when I finished, she put her hand on mine and said, "You did the right thing, Daniel. You have to take care of yourself first." I almost believed her. The fourth week, I was sitting in my apartment on a Sunday afternoon, watching a movie and eating takeout from a place I had never tried before, when there was a knock at the door. It was a sharp, insistent knock, the kind that meant someone wasn't going away. I got up and looked through the peephole. My heart dropped into my stomach. It was my father. He looked older than I remembered. His hair had gone completely gray, and his face was lined with deep wrinkles. He was wearing a worn flannel jacket and jeans that had seen better days. He looked tired, but there was something else in his eyes. Something that looked a lot like anger. I stood there for a moment, my hand on the doorknob, trying to decide what to do. Every instinct told me not to open the door. Every instinct told me to pretend I wasn't home, to wait until he gave up and left. But I had spent my whole life running from my family. I had spent my whole life avoiding confrontation, and I was tired of running. I opened the door. "Dad," I said. My voice was steady, which surprised me. He looked me up and down, his eyes narrowing. "You've been ignoring us," he said. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "I've been busy," I said. It was a lie, and we both knew it. "Busy," he repeated, scoffing. "You're always busy. Too busy to call your mother. Too busy to come home. Too busy to help out." I felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp, but I pushed it down. "I helped out for 3 years," I said quietly. "I paid your bills. I paid for Emily's school. I paid for Mark's college applications. I paid for Jessica's car. I never asked for anything in return." He waved his hand dismissively. "Money isn't everything, Danny. We need you. We need your presence. We need you to be part of this family." I stared at him. "I sent you money every month for 3 years. I worked 70 hours a week so that you could keep the lights on. And you couldn't even be bothered to say thank you." His face reddened. "Thank you? You want to thank you? You're our son. It's your duty to take care of us. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. You owe us." Those words hit me like a physical blow. I had heard variations of them my whole life. You owe us. We sacrificed for you. Family takes care of family. But hearing them now, standing in my own doorway, in my own apartment that I had paid for with my own money, they felt different. They felt like chains. "I don't owe you anything," I said. My voice was shaking now, but I didn't care. I was a child. You chose to have me. You chose to raise me. That wasn't a favor. That was your responsibility. And I have spent the last 3 years paying for your mistakes, your bad luck, your refusal to help yourselves. And you know what I got in return? Nothing. No gratitude. No respect. Just a family group chat where you all made fun of me behind my back." His eyes widened. For a moment, he looked almost guilty. But then the guilt was replaced by something harder. "That was private," he said. "Jessica shouldn't have sent you that. We were just blowing off steam. We didn't mean it." "Didn't mean it?" I laughed, and it was a bitter, ugly sound. "You called me cold. You said I thought I was better than you. Emily said I didn't know what real work was. You all sat there and trashed me while I was working myself into the ground for you. And now you're standing here telling me you didn't mean it." He took a step forward, and I instinctively took a step back. "We're your family, Danny. Families fight. Families say things they don't mean. But you don't just cut them off. You don't block their numbers and disappear. That's not how this works. Yes, it is, I said. That's exactly how it works. You hurt me. You betrayed me. And I don't have to stand here and take it anymore. He looked at me for a long moment, his jaw clenched. I could see the gears turning in his head, trying to find the right words to make me cave, to make me feel guilty, to make me open my wallet and my heart again. But I was done. Your mother is sick, he said finally. His voice was lower now, almost pleading. She's been having chest pains. The doctor said it might be stress. She needs you, Danny. She needs her son. I felt a pang of guilt, sharp and immediate. My mother, the woman who had held me when I was sick, who had packed my lunches, who had stayed up late sewing patches on my jeans. I loved my mother. I had always loved my mother. But I also remembered the words she had typed in that group chat. He barely calls anymore. He sounds so cold. Like we're a burden to him. I'm sorry she's not feeling well, I said. I hope she gets better. But I can't help you anymore. I can't be the person you want me to be. His face crumpled. For a second, I thought he might cry. But then he straightened up, his expression hardening into something cold and distant. You're making a mistake, he said. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said. But I regret the last 3 years more. He stood there for a moment longer, as if waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, he turned around and walked away. I watched him go, his footsteps echoing down the hallway, until he disappeared around the corner. Then I closed the door, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the cool wood. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I felt like I had just run a marathon, or fought a battle. And in a way, I had. I had stood up to my father for the first time in my life. I had told him no. I had chosen myself. But it didn't feel good. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like losing something I had never really had. The days after my father's visit were strange. I expected to feel relieved, but instead, I felt hollow. I went through the motions of my life. Work, eat, sleep, repeat, but everything felt muted, like I was watching myself from a distance. I thought about my mother's chest pains. I thought about Emily, still in high school, still needing things. I thought about Jessica and Mark, stuck in that small town, probably still waiting for me to come to my senses and start sending money again. But I didn't. I held firm. I told myself that they had made their choice. They had chosen to mock me, to belittle me, to take me for granted. And I had chosen to walk away. A month passed. Then 2. I started to build a new life. I went out with Sarah more often. We started dating, slowly and carefully, like 2 people who had been burned before and were afraid of the fire. She was patient with me. She listened when I talked about my family, and she never pushed me to do anything I wasn't ready for. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was part of something real. I also started saving money. Real money. The kind of money that could buy a house or pay for a wedding or provide a safety net for the future. I opened a retirement account and started contributing to it every month. I bought a used car that actually ran. I painted my apartment, hung up some pictures, made it feel like home. And I started to heal. Slowly, painfully, like a broken bone knitting itself back together. There were good days and bad days. There were nights when I woke up in a cold sweat, dreaming about that group chat, dreaming about the words they had written. There were moments when I picked up my phone to call my mother, only to remember that I had blocked her number. But those moments became less frequent. The pain became duller. Life went on. Then, 6 months after I had cut them off, I got a letter. It was in my mailbox when I came home from work. A plain white envelope with my address written in handwriting I recognized immediately. My mother's handwriting. She had always had beautiful handwriting, the kind that looked like it belonged on a wedding invitation. I stood in the hallway, holding the envelope, trying to decide whether to open it. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to pretend I had never seen it. But another part of me, the part that still loved my mother despite everything, needed to know what it said. I opened it. The letter was short. Just a few lines on a piece of notebook paper. Daniel, I'm sorry. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. We were wrong. All of us. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realized that I never thanked you. Not once. You gave us everything, and I treated you like it was nothing. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know that I love you. And I miss you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Love, Mom. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in the drawer of my nightstand, next to my passport and my grandmother's old watch. I didn't call her. Not that night, not the next day. I wasn't ready. The wounds were still too fresh, the scars too new. But I kept the letter. I kept it because it was the first time in 3 years that my mother had said she was sorry. The first time she had acknowledged that I had given something. The first time she had made me feel seen. A year passed. I turned 30. Sarah and I moved in together, into a bigger apartment with a balcony that overlooked the city. We adopted a cat, a scruffy orange tabby we named Marmalade. I got a promotion at work, a corner office with a window and a view of the river. Life was good. Life was better than good. Life was everything I had ever wanted. But there was still a hole in my heart where my family used to be. I thought about them often. I wondered if Emily had graduated high school. I wondered if Mark had ever gone to community college. I wondered if Jessica was still working at the diner. I wondered if my father's knees had gotten worse. I wondered if my mother's chest pains had gone away. I never unblocked their numbers, but I also never threw away that letter. It stayed in my nightstand drawer, a quiet reminder that somewhere out there, my mother was thinking of me. Then, on a rainy Tuesday in October, I got another letter. This one was different. It was from my father. I recognized his handwriting immediately. It was sloppier than my mother's, all sharp angles and uneven lines. He had never been much for writing. The envelope was crumpled, like he had carried it around for a while before mailing it. I opened it with trembling hands. Danny, your mother passed away 2 days ago. Heart attack. It was quick. She didn't suffer. The funeral is on Saturday. I know you don't want to see us, but she would have wanted you there. Please come. Dad. I read the letter once. Then again. Then a third time. The words blurred together, and I realized that I was crying. Great, heaving sobs that shook my entire body. I sank onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. Sarah found me like that, curled up and crying. She sat down next to me and put her arm around my shoulders. What happened? She asked softly. I handed her the letter. She read it, and her face went pale. Oh, Daniel, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to feel. I was sad, of course. My mother was gone, and I would never get the chance to talk to her again. But I was also angry. Angry that she had died before we could fix things. Angry that my father had waited until she was gone to reach out. Angry at myself for not calling her when I had the chance. The funeral was on Saturday. I had to decide whether to go. Sarah didn't push me one way or the other. She just held my hand and let me think. I spent the next 3 days in a fog, going to work, coming home, staring at the walls. I thought about my mother. I thought about the good times, the moments when she had been the kind, loving woman I remembered from my childhood. I thought about the bad times, the years of struggle and sacrifice and resentment. I thought about the group chat, the words she had typed, the way she had dismissed everything I had done. And I thought about the letter she had sent me, the apology, the love, the miss you. On Friday night, I made my decision. I was going to the funeral. Sarah offered to come with me, but I said no. This was something I had to do alone. I borrowed her car and drove the 6 hours to my hometown. The roads were dark and empty, and the rain had turned to a light drizzle by the time I crossed the city limits. The town looked smaller than I remembered. The main street was even more boarded up, and the gas station had closed down. But the old house was still there, the one I had grown up in. The roof still looked like it leaked, and the porch sagged in the middle. There were cars parked out front. My father's truck, Jessica's sedan, a newer car that I didn't recognize. I sat in the car for a long time, watching the house. The lights were on, and I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. My family was in there. The people who had hurt me, who had betrayed me, who had taken everything I had and given nothing in return. And I was about to walk through that door and face them. I took a deep breath, got out of the car, and walked up the creaking steps. I knocked on the door before I could change my mind. The door opened. It was Jessica. She looked older, thinner. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She stared at me for a moment, her mouth hanging open. Then her eyes filled with tears. Danny, she whispered. You came. I came, I said. She stepped aside, and I walked into the house. Everything looked the same. The same worn carpet, the same faded wallpaper, the same smell of coffee and dust. My father was sitting in his old recliner, staring at the floor. Mark was on the couch, his arm around a young woman I didn't recognize. And Emily was standing by the window, her back to me. Daniel's here, Jessica said, her voice cracking. My father looked up. His face was pale, and his eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Son, he said. That was all. Just that one word. But it was enough. I walked over to him, and he stood up. We looked at each other for a moment. Two men who had spent years failing to understand each other. Then he pulled me into a hug. It was awkward and stiff, but it was real. He was crying. I was crying too. I'm sorry, he said into my shoulder. I'm so sorry, Danny. For everything. I didn't say anything. I just held on. After a moment, he let go and wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Your mother, he said, his voice breaking. She wanted to call you. So many times. But she was afraid. Afraid you wouldn't answer. Afraid you were still angry. I wasn't angry, I said. And it was true. The anger had faded months ago, replaced by something softer. Something that felt a lot like grief. Emily turned around. She was 17 now, almost a woman. She had grown into her features, and she looked so much like our mother that it took my breath away. Hi, Danny, she said. Her voice was small and uncertain. I am, I said. She walked over to me, hesitantly, like I was a stranger she was meeting for the first time. Then she threw her arms around me and burst into tears. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. I was just being stupid. I was jealous. You got out, and I was still here, and I was so jealous. I hugged her back, holding her tight. I know, I said. It's okay. I forgive you. Mark came over next. He didn't say much, just clapped me on the shoulder and nodded. But there was something in his eyes, a glimmer of the little brother I used to know, and that was enough. Jessica was the last. She stood in front of me, twisting her hands together. I sent you that screenshot by accident, she said. But I'm not sorry I did. You deserve to know the truth. And I'm sorry for my part in it. I was a terrible sister. I took you for granted. We all did. I looked at her, at the sister who had accidentally shattered my world and, in doing so, had set me free. Thank you, I said, for sending it. It hurt more than anything I've ever felt. But it also woke me up. I would have kept giving forever if you hadn't. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Danny. I love you too. The funeral was the next day. It was a small service at the same rundown funeral home where we had buried my grandmother years ago. A few neighbors showed up, a couple of my mother's old co-workers. The pastor said some words about love and family and the importance of forgiveness. I didn't hear most of it. I was too busy staring at the casket, at the woman inside who had given me life and then broken my heart. After the service, we went back to the house. We sat in the living room, the same living room where I had spent countless hours watching TV and doing homework and dreaming of escape. And we talked. Not about the money or the group chat or the years of silence. We talked about my mother. We shared memories, good ones, the kind that made us laugh and cry at the same time. My father told a story about the time my mother tried to fix the garbage disposal herself and ended up flooding the kitchen. Jessica remembered the time my mother stayed up all night sewing Halloween costumes because we had waited until the last minute to tell her what we wanted to be. Mark talked about the way she used to hum while she cooked, off-key but happy. And Emily remembered the lullabies she used to sing, soft and sweet, that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. I listened to all of it, and I felt something shift inside me. The anger and hurt that had been festering for so long began to loosen their grip. They didn't disappear completely. They never would. But they became smaller, quieter, easier to carry. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the porch and looked up at the stars. The sky was clear, and the air was cold, and I could see the Milky Way stretching across the darkness like a river of light. I thought about my mother, about the last letter she had written me. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know that I love you. And I miss you. I pulled out my phone and unblocked her number. I knew she would never answer. I knew the phone would just ring, and then go to voicemail. But I did it anyway. And then I typed out a message. Hi, Mom. I forgive you. I love you. I miss you too. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the send button. Then I pressed it. The message sent. And somewhere, in a better place, I hoped she received it. I stayed in town for 3 more days. I helped my father sort through my mother's things. I cleaned out her closet, packed up her jewelry, donated her clothes to the church. It was hard, harder than I expected, but it was also healing. Every dress we folded, every shoe we boxed, every photograph we set aside felt like a small goodbye. On the 3rd day, I sat down with my family and had a conversation that was long overdue. I'm not going to pay your bills anymore, I said. My voice was steady, but my heart was pounding. I can't. I have my own life now. I have bills of my own. I have a future to save for. And I need you to respect that. My father nodded slowly. We understand, he said. We should never have asked you to do that in the first place. We took advantage of you. And we're sorry. Mark spoke up. I got a job, he said. At the warehouse. It's not much, but it's something. And I'm taking classes online. Community college. Just a few at a time. Jessica said, I'm going to nursing school. It's going to take forever because I have to work at the same time, but I'm doing it. I'm going to make something of myself. And Emily, my baby sister, said, I'm going to apply to colleges. Out of state. I want to get out of here, just like you did. And I'm going to do it without your money. I'm going to do it on my own. I looked at them, at this broken, flawed, complicated family of mine, and I felt a swell of something that felt a lot like pride. They were trying. They were finally trying. That's all I ever wanted, I said. Not thanks. Not praise. Just for you to try. We hugged again. All of us, a messy group hug in the middle of the living room. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was home. I drove back to the city the next day. Sarah was waiting for me at the apartment, marmalade curled up in her lap. She took one look at my face and smiled. How was it? She asked. It was hard, I said. But it was good. Really good. She stood up and wrapped her arms around me. I'm proud of you, she said. Thank you, I said. For everything. We stood there for a long time, holding each other, while the cat meowed at us for attention. And I realized that I had something I had never had before. I had a family that was trying. I had a partner who loved me. And I had myself, finally, after all these years. The group chat still haunts me sometimes. I won't lie. There are nights when I close my eyes and see those words, and the pain comes rushing back. But it's not as sharp as it used to be. It's more like an old scar, something that aches when the weather changes but doesn't stop you from living your life. I never rejoined the family chat. They have a new one now, and I'm in it. But I keep my notifications off, and I check it only when I feel strong enough. Most of the time, it's boring. Grocery lists and TV recommendations and arguments about what to have for dinner. Normal stuff. Family stuff. And sometimes, on a good day, my father will post a picture of my mother. An old one, from before she got sick, when she was smiling and healthy and full of life. And I'll look at that picture, and I'll remember that she was more than the words she typed in a moment of frustration. She was a person. A flawed, complicated, beautiful person. And she loved me. In her own way, she really did. My mother used to say that family is like a tree. The roots go deep, and even when the branches break, the tree keeps growing. I didn't understand that when I was younger. I thought family was about obligation, about duty, about paying back a debt you never agreed to. But I was wrong. Family is about choice. It's about choosing to love each other even when it's hard. It's about choosing to forgive even when you've been hurt. It's about choosing to show up, even when every part of you wants to run away. I chose to show up, and I'm glad I did. If you're out there and you're struggling with your own family, I want you to know that you're not alone. I want you to know that it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to protect your own heart. But I also want you to know that it's okay to come back. If they're willing to change, if they're willing to try, it's okay to give them another chance. Not because you owe them, but because you owe it to yourself to know that you did everything you could. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight in silence. But you don't have to fight alone. Take care of yourselves. And remember, you are worth more than what they say about you behind your back.